He trusted his neighbors. After all, living in a gated community with an HOA was supposed to mean security, order, and respect. But while he was away, something unthinkable happened. His prized boat, the one he worked years to buy, wasn't where he left it. Instead, it was out on the open water, being used for a party he never knew about. Drinks flowed, music blasted, laughter echoed across the lake, until blue lights appeared in the distance. The Coast Guard was closing in, but when the truth surfaced, who was behind the wheel and why, it exposed more than theft. It revealed prejudice. Marcus Green was proud of the life he had built. A hard-working man in his late 30s, he grew up in a modest neighborhood where owning a boat wasn't even a dream. It was a fantasy. But after years of saving and working double shifts, Marcus finally bought one, a sleek white vessel that became his sanctuary. Weekends on the lake meant peace, fishing, and a reminder of how far he'd come. Living in an upscale community with a homeowners association, Marcus thought his boat would be safe when stored at the private dock. The HOA promised security and fairness for all residents, and as one of the few black homeowners in the neighborhood, Marcus wanted to believe it. One weekend, he left town to visit family. Before leaving, he carefully secured his boat, locking it as he always did. When he returned, neighbors gave him odd looks, whispering as he drove past. Confused but unaware of what had unfolded, Marcus walked down to the dock to check on his boat. What he found wasn't damage. It was something far stranger. His cooler was gone, ropes were loose, and footprints marked the deck. But the real story was worse than he imagined. While he was away, members of the HOA had decided to borrow his boat for their own private party. They hadn't asked. They hadn't informed him. To them, it was just sitting there, unused. And that night on the water, their arrogance and entitlement would come face to face with reality when authority arrived. The party had been planned in secret. A few HOA board members, mostly affluent longtime residents, had grown tired of renting boats for their outings. They saw Marcus's gleaming vessel as an easy solution. "He's not even here," one of them whispered. "It's not like he'll notice." So they broke into the dock, cut through the lock, and took his boat out onto the lake. Music blasted from speakers, glasses clinked with wine, and their laughter carried across the water. They danced, posed for selfies, and treated the boat as if it were their own. But entitlement can only float for so long. Around midnight, the Coast Guard noticed a vessel drifting near a restricted area. Its lights were dim, safety markers missing, and the operator appeared to be intoxicated. Within minutes, a patrol boat pulled alongside. Sirens pierced the night, and voices boomed through megaphones. "Cut your engine. Prepare for inspection." The HOA president, a woman known for enforcing petty rules about lawn lengths and mailbox paint colors, stood frozen at the helm. Her confidence evaporated as the officers boarded. Questions came fast. Whose boat was this? Where were the registration papers? Why was it being operated in this condition? The group scrambled for excuses, fumbling with drinks still in hand. But none of their answers made sense. One officer asked again, his tone sharper. "Is this your boat?" Finally, under the pressure of authority, the truth slipped out. "It belongs to a neighbor." They hesitated, then whispered Marcus's name. The Coast Guard officers exchanged looks. They knew Marcus. He was a licensed, law-abiding boat owner. The realization hit. The people before them had stolen his property, risking not only fines but also federal charges. Still, what stood out wasn't just the theft. It was the audacity, that they assumed they could take what wasn't theirs simply because the owner wasn't around and because, deep down, they believed he wouldn't be respected enough to fight back. The Coast Guard wasted no time. Everyone on board was ordered to sit down, hands visible. The partygoers, once smug and confident, now trembled under the harsh beam of spotlights. One officer, flipping through the boat's documents, confirmed the registration, Marcus Green. "Do you have permission from the owner?" The officer asked sternly. Silence followed. The HOA president stammered. "We were on the board. We oversee the dock, the community." But her words only dug the hole deeper. Authority doesn't bend to homeowner rules. The officers made it clear. This was theft, plain and simple. The group's laughter was gone, replaced by panic as fines, possible arrests, and federal implications were spelled out. Their excuses turned to apologies, then to silence. When Marcus returned later that week and heard what happened, he was stunned. The audacity, the betrayal. Neighbors he had trusted, people who smiled to his face, had not only violated his property, but also embarrassed themselves in front of law enforcement. What cut deepest wasn't just the act itself, but the underlying assumption. They never would have touched another neighbor's boat. But in their minds, it was available. Their privilege had blinded them into thinking they could take without consequence. The climax of the story wasn't just their arrest or the Coast Guard's intervention. It was the exposure. The moment their mask of superiority cracked under the weight of truth. For once, their authority meant nothing. They were just people caught in the act, and the law saw them for what they were. In the aftermath, Marcus had a choice. He could press charges or let it slide. But the Coast Guard made one thing clear. A line had been crossed, and ignoring it would only empower them further. With evidence documented and reports filed, the HOA leaders were forced into accountability. The scandal spread quickly. What was once whispered in cul-de-sacs became headlines in community forums. Neighbors debated, argued, and finally admitted what Marcus had always known. Respect in that neighborhood wasn't evenly distributed. Some people were allowed to bend rules, while others, like him, were constantly watched and questioned. Marcus didn't seek revenge. He didn't need to. The humiliation they faced was punishment enough. What mattered to him was the principle, standing firm against the quiet, everyday ways racism seeps into communities. Not always through slurs or violence, but through entitlement, through assumptions that one man's property was worth less simply because of who he was. He looked at his boat, repaired and restored, and knew this incident was bigger than him. It was a reflection of countless other moments, when black homeowners are treated as outsiders, when success is undermined by envy, when dignity is disregarded because of skin color. The question left hanging wasn't about the boat, or even the HOA. It was about society itself. How many times must boundaries be crossed before respect becomes universal? How many Marcus Greens will it take before equality isn't conditional, but standard? As the sun set over the lake, Marcus tightened the ropes on his boat, this time with a deeper resolve. His story wasn't just a personal violation. It was a reminder that justice, when it comes, can reveal the truth in ways no one can deny. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, shared, and remembered, don't let them fade into silence. Like, comment, and subscribe. Not just for Marcus, but for everyone still fighting to be seen, respected, and heard.